Hello, word nerds. Welcome to The Dictionary. This is my podcast where I read the dictionary. The first word is blackheart. Blackheart, one word, noun from 1909. A plant disease in which the central tissues blacken. That's not good. I don't think they want their tissues to turn black. That probably means they're dying. Next is black hole. Two words, noun from 1964. 1. A celestial object that has a gravitational field so strong that light cannot escape it, and that is believed to be created especially in the collapse of a very massive star. Number 2. Something resembling a black hole, as 2a. Something that consumes a resource continually, like my mouth eating food, as in a financial black hole. And then 2b, an empty space. Synonym is void. What was I going to say? That movie Interstellar, they visualize a black hole in that movie. And they actually had scientists working on the movie and did so much work on it that they actually were able to write a scientific paper based on the math and science that they did studying black holes. They may have eventually done it anyway, but the fact that a scientific paper came out of a Hollywood movie, I think, is pretty fascinating. And it sort of changed the way I think some people think about black holes, at least the super smart scientists. And then not that long ago, they finally got a picture of a black hole. It's very small and blurry, and technically you don't see the black hole. You just see the event horizon, which is the area between where light things can still exist and the area that the black hole sucks stuff in. So inside the event horizon, there's no light, no nothing. And so they got a picture of the light that's around the black hole. Anyway, it's just fascinating. And then they also found proof of gravitational waves recently, which, yes, this is the stuff that I find interesting and I learn about. The gravitational waves were created when two black holes collided. I think it was billions of years ago or something, and it sent literally sent waves through gravity that they were able to measure. It's such a crazy thing that they can test that and find that it's true. Anyway, that's black holes. Moving on to black ice. Two words, noun from 1961. A nearly transparent film of ice on a dark surface, as a paved road or a body of water that is difficult to see. I'm sure that every one of you who drives has dealt with this at some point. I have definitely slid on black ice a number of occasions. One in particular where I started to fishtail. I didn't, spin around or anything, but I got pretty close to spinning the car around, and that was pretty scary. Next is blacking. Noun from 1571. A substance as a paste or polish that is applied to an object to make it black. This must be what they use when they want to make it look like people are missing teeth. They'll put some of this stuff on a tooth. Next is blackjack. One word, first form, noun from 1591. Number 1, there's some etymology for it, but we'll come back to that. Number 1 is a tankard for beer or ale, usually of tar-coated leather. And the etymology says that it is from black plus jack, and I guess jack is a vessel. So it's a vessel that is black because it's tar-coated leather. Next is number 2, the synonym sphalerite. Sphalerite? Sphalerite. Sphalerite. Don't know what that is. Number 3, a hand weapon typically consisting of a piece of leather enclosed metal with a strap or springy shaft for a handle. Number 4, an often scrubby oak, chiefly of the southeastern U.S., called also blackjack oak. The adjectives that they use to describe some of these words, I think, are very funny. A scrubby oak. The scientific name is Quercus marylandica. Marylandica. Next is number 5, a card game with the object of which is to be dealt cards having a higher count than those of the dealer up to but not exceeding 21, called also 21, or Vingt et un. Is that German? Vingt et un, which I assume means 20 and 1. So many definitions of the word blackjack that I did not know, including, now we have the second form of blackjack. It is a transitive verb from 1905. 1, to strike with a blackjack. That must be the number 3 definition, the what is this piece of metal thing? And then number 2, for the verb form of blackjack, to coerce with threats or pressure. Now we have black land, one word, noun from 1803. 1, a heavy, sticky black soil, such as that covering large areas in Texas. I wonder if that's related to oil. Number 2 is plural, a region of black land. Next is black lead, one word, noun from 1580, chiefly British, and we have the number 1 definition for the word graphite. So I guess they call that black lead. Now we have black leg. No, it is one word, noun from circa 1722. 1, a usually fatal toxemia, especially of young cattle, caused by a soil bacterium. The scientific name for that is Clostridium shavuei. What is that? Chauvoi. Chauvoi. That is not how you say that word. Number 2, a cheating gambler. Synonym is swindler. Number 3 is chiefly British. A worker hostile to trade unionism or acting in opposition to union policies. And a synonym is scab. Now we have black-legged tick. Black-legged is hyphenated. This is a noun from 1944. Either of 2 ixodid ticks. Ixodid is spelled Ixodid. And then we have A, synonym is deer tick. And then B, it says, a tick of the western U.S. and British Columbia that is the vector of several diseases. That is the vector. Yes, that's what it says. The scientific name for this one is Ixodes pacificus. Oh, and then example of one of the diseases is Lyme disease. Lyme with a Y, not an I. Next is black letter, 2 words, noun from circa 1644. A heavy, angular, condensed typeface used especially by the earliest European printers and based on handwriting, used chiefly in the 13th to 15th centuries. Also, this style of handwriting. I feel like I've probably seen this when dealing with fonts on the computer, but maybe I should find an example of black letter. Next is black light. 2 words, noun from 1927. 1, invisible ultraviolet light. And then number 2, a lamp that radiates black light. I know it's kind of tacky, but I have always thought black lights were cool because you get to see things that you couldn't otherwise see. Next is black light trap. Black light is 1 word here. Noun from 1961, a trap for insects that uses a form of black light perceptible to particular insects as an attractant. I do not like these because they zap them, and even though, they're insects, I think it is actually very painful for them to get zapped. They may not die right away, and that's, then they're just in pain, and that sucks. But on a lighter note, I will say that in the movie A Bug's Life, there's a very funny part where one of the bugs is flying towards it, and he says, "No, don't." His friend Bug says, "No, don't fly towards the light." And the other one who's flying says, "I can't help it. It's so beautiful." And then he gets zapped. But I will not ever be buying one of these blacklight traps. Next is blacklist. 1 word. It is the first form. Noun from circa 1619. a list of persons who are disapproved of or are to be punished or boycotted. You don't ever want to end up on a blacklist. That's a very complicated subject. Now we have the second form of blacklist. It is a verb from 1702, just transitive verb, by the way, to put on a blacklist. And then blacklister is a noun. Next is black locust, 2 words, noun from 1787. A tall tree of eastern North America with pinnately compound leaves, drooping racemes of fragrant white flowers, and strong, stiff wood. Because it's called locust, I thought it might be an insect, but it's a tree. The scientific name is Robinia pseudoacacia, or pseudoacacia, something. Next is black lung, 2 words, noun from 1837. Pneumoconiosis, is that the word? Pneumoconiosis, caused by habitual inhalation of coal dust. Yeah, this is a thing that coal miners get, and it's very bad for their health. Next and last word for this episode is blackmail, 1 word, noun from 1552. 1. A tribute anciently executed on the Scottish border by plundering chiefs in exchange for immunity from pillage. Number 2A. Extortion or coercion by threats, especially of public exposure or criminal prosecution. And then lastly, 2B. The payment that is extorted. Blackmail is a transitive verb and blackmailer is a noun. Well, what is going to be the word of the episode? I am going to have to pick black hole as the word of the episode because clearly that was my favorite one. But, there were other good ones in there too. Some of you probably really wanted me to pick blackjack. But sorry, I'm more into the black holes. That is it for this episode. Let's see, I haven't talked about some of my things I've been watching and stuff because, it hasn't really been appropriate. Maybe it's not appropriate ever to talk about that. But in case you are looking for recommendations, I finished Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I got caught up on that. My wife and I got caught up on that, and that is a great, funny show. There should be another season 8, probably coming out either later this year or next year. And we also are almost done watching the first season of The Haunting of Hill House, which we just started a few days ago. Sharon had watched it before, so she's rewatching it, and I am watching it for the first time. It is a very good show. It is horror. It's mostly like a family drama with a lot of horror stuff in there, and it's very well done, so I definitely recommend that. It's based on a book and a movie, so, there are other versions, but this is sort of a new take on that. I think that's good for now. I'm going to sign off by saying this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this silly podcast. It's called The Dictionary, but you probably knew that. Today is, June 29th. The first word is Black Mariah. It looks like it's Black Maria, but it is pronounced Black Mariah. 2 words, the B and the M are capitalized. It is a noun from 1843. Synonym is paddywagon. Next is black market. 2 words with a hyphen. It is an intransitive verb from 1943. To buy or sell goods in the black market. Oh, and here's some one transitive definition. To sell in the black market. Black marketer or black marketeer are nouns, and black marketeering is a noun. Now we have black market without a hyphen. It is a noun from 1931. Illicit trade in goods or commodities in violation of official regulations. Also, a place where such trade is carried on. Now we have black mass. 2 words, first letters are capitalized. Noun from 1820. A travesty on the Christian mass ascribed to worshippers of Satan. Don't know much about that. Now we have black Muslim. The first letters are capitalized. Noun from 1960. A member of a chiefly black group that professes Islamic religious belief. I believe Malcolm X would have been a black Muslim. I really hope I'm not wrong on that, because then I will sound incredibly stupid, but I think I might be right. Next is black nationalist. This is a noun from 1963. A member of a group of militant blacks who advocate separatism from the whites and the formation of self-governing black communities. Black nationalism is a noun, and then the B and the N are often capitalized in both situations. I can't blame people who feel this way. I honestly, that makes sense to me. I don't think the majority of people feel that way, of blacks specifically, in America specifically, but I do understand why they would feel that way, because, we've done some terrible things over the years. But in general, I think groups and communities as mixed as possible, I think, are best. That goes with business and communities, or any groups in general. The more mixed you are, I've said this before because I learned it, the better the group is. The more diversity, the better it is. The more different types of brains and cultures you got working on a problem or dealing with something, it's going to be the best possible thing it can be. Next, we have black on black. 3 words with hyphens, adjective from 1975, involving a black person against another black person, as in black on black crime. I have a feeling later in the dictionary we are going to see white on white. Next is blackout. 1 word, noun from 1913. 1A. A turning off of the stage lighting to separate scenes in a play or end a play or skit. Also, a skit that ends with a blackout. 1B. A period of darkness enforced as a precaution against air raids. 1C. A period of darkness, as in a city, caused by a failure of electrical power. Number 2. A transient dulling or loss of vision, consciousness, or memory, as in an alcoholic blackout. 3A. A wiping out. Synonym is obliteration. 3B. A blotting out by censorship. Synonym is suppression, as in a news blackout. Number 4. A usually temporary loss of a radio signal. Number 5. The prohibition or restriction of the telecasting of a sports event. And number 6. A time during which a special commercial offer, as of tickets, is not valid, usually used attributively, as in blackout dates. Now we have blackout again, but this one is 2 words. It is a verb from 1850. We are starting with transitive. 1A. Synonyms are blot out and erase, as in blacked out the event from his mind. Unfortunately, I think I've blacked out a lot of memories, not consciously, just because there's a lot of information going in there and my brain doesn't work so good, so I've lost a lot of information. 1B. To press by censorship, as in black out the news. Number 2. To envelop in darkness, as in black out the stage. Number 3. To make inoperative, as by a power failure. These are, a lot of these are the verb forms of the one that we just read, which were nouns. Number 4, to impose a blackout on, as in blacked out the local game. Now we have the intransitive definitions. 1, to become enveloped in darkness. Number 2, to undergo a temporary loss of vision, consciousness, or memory. Next is Black Panther. 2 words, the B and the P are capitalized. Noun from 1965. A member of an organization of militant American blacks. I feel like in the 60s and 70s, you probably heard a lot more about the Black Panthers. I don't think they've ever gone away, but we are starting to hear more about them, especially over the last couple of months with all of the protests and riots and change needing to happen. I think the Black Panthers are coming out and saying what they got to say and doing what they got to do to help that cause. Next is black pepper. 2 words, noun from before the 12th century. A spice that consists of the dried berry of an Indian vine ground with the black husk still on. Also, the plant that yields black pepper. I didn't know it was a berry. The scientific name is Piper nigrum, or is it piper? I don't know, probably not. Piper nigrum, I'll just say that. Next is black poll, P-O-L-L. This is 1 word, noun from 1783. A North American warbler with the male having a black cap when in breeding plumage. The scientific name is Dendroica striata. Next is black powder, 2 words, noun from 1861. An explosive mixture of potassium nitrate or sodium nitrate, charcoal, and sulfur used especially in fireworks and as a propellant in antique firearms. Compare to the word gunpowder. Now we have black power. You take out the D from powder and you get black power. Noun from 1954. The mobilization of the political and economic power of American blacks, especially to compel respect for their rights and improve their condition. We have been seeing the black power symbol, which is typically shown with the fist, the black fist, either by a person or painted artistically, and we've been seeing that a lot. That's been a symbol. In fact, just yesterday, I was driving in the city, and I saw some people painting a wall. It said Black Lives Matter at the top, and then they were painting that black fist. Next is black pudding, 2 words, noun from 1568. This is chiefly British, and the synonym is blood sausage. Yes, that is what it is. So black pudding sounds like it would be something that might, be a dessert, but it is blood sausage. Next and last word for this episode is black racer. 2 words. Race, yeah, it's like a car racer, but I don't think it's a car racer. Noun from 1836. Either of 2 common black colubrid snakes of the U.S. Colubrid is C-O-L-U-B-R-I-D. And then we have a snake chiefly of the eastern U.S., and the scientific name for that is Colubert constrictor. Yep, constrictor twice. And then we have B, a snake of the southeastern U.S., and the scientific name for that one is Colubert constrictor priapus. That is all the words for this episode. I am going to pick black power as the word of the episode because, I think it's pretty obvious. That is it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And, I think today or tomorrow might be my brother-in-law's birthday. One of these days. I am still recording this on June 13th, so I don't know what's happened in the last couple weeks. But I hope that there has been progress made in the world. Even just in the last few days, there's been a lot of progress that I have been hearing about. The little bit that I follow news, I've been seeing things. There are organizations that are changing policies, and there are cities that are changing policies, particularly with the police, and that is not going to stop. It cannot stop. So I hope that by the time this episode airs, we have seen a lot more of that. There's always the bad news that pops up. Just earlier today, I heard about a black man who was killed, I think, in his car or was sleeping in his car or something in Wendy's. I don't know. I need to learn more about this story, but there's going to be that stuff all the time. But I'm hoping with all these changes, those are gradually become less and less, and we see more and more of these positive news stories coming out. Anyway, that is it. Thank you very much for listening. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to the dictionary. How are you all doing? I hope you are okay. Today is June 30th. The first word is black raspberry. 2 words, noun from circa 1782. A raspberry of eastern North America that has a purplish black fruit and is the source of several cultivated varieties, called also blackcap. The scientific name is Rubus occidentalis. Next we have black rhinoceros. 2 words, noun from 1848. A rhinoceros of sub-Saharan Africa having a prehensile upper lip that protrudes in the middle, called also black rhino. I had no idea that different kinds of rhinoceri, have different types of upper lips. That's interesting. But yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. The scientific name is Diceros or Diceros bicornis. That's bicornis, but that usually means bi is 2. Anyway, I don't know why they choose the scientific names. Moving on to black rod. 2 words, the B and the R are capitalized. Noun from circa 1607, the principal usher of the House of Lords. No clue what that is. Next is black rot. 2 words, noun from 1849, a bacterial or fungal rot of plants marked by dark brown discoloration. Next is black sheep. 2 words, noun from 1657, a disfavored or disreputable member of a group. I think there are actually black sheep, probably, but this is just in terms of people can be the black sheep of the family. Next is black shirt. 1 word, the B is capitalized. Noun from 1922. A member of a fascist organization having a black shirt as a distinctive part of its uniform, especially a member of the Italian Fascist Party. Next is blacksmith. Noun from the 15th century. A smith who forges iron. Blacksmithing is a noun. It's probably also a verb. This is from a distinction between black metal, which is iron, and white metal, which is tin. I didn't know that other kinds of metals, or iron is an example of black metal, and tin is an example of white metal. But you never hear of a whitesmith, do you? You must. I mean, if white metal is a thing, you must hear of a whitesmith. I had no clue about that. Okay. Do they use other types of metals? Do blacksmiths only use iron, or are there other metals that they blacksmith with? Next is black smoker. 2 words, noun from 1980. A vent in a geologically active region in the seafloor from which issues superheated water laden with minerals as sulfide precipitates. Also, a rock chimney covering such a vent. Next is black snake. 1 word, noun from 1634. 1. Any of several snakes that are largely black or very dark in color, as 1a, a black racer. I think we had that in the last episode. Let's see, black racer. 1b, a rat snake. And number 2, a long, tapering, braided whip of rawhide or leather. The scientific name for black racer is Colubert constrictor. Oh, I think I read that actually before. And then the scientific name for the rat snake is Elaphe obsoleta. Yeah, that Elaphe, that's kind of a pretty name actually. Next is black spot. 2 words, noun from circa 1889. Any of several bacterial or fungal diseases of plants characterized by black spots or blotches, especially on the leaves. I think that is definitely related to black rot. Next is black spruce, 2 words, noun from 1744. A widely distributed spruce of northern North America that grows chiefly in moist soils and bogs. And the scientific name is Picea mariana, Picea. Next is blackstrap molasses. Blackstrap molasses. 2 words, noun from 1880. A thick, dark molasses obtained from successive processing of raw sugar. Sugar. Blackstrap is, it says, cheap wine or a mixture of rum and molasses. That's where it gets its name from. Next is black swallowtail, 2 words, noun from 1889. A usually dark-colored New World swallowtail having yellow spots on the wing margins and a black spot centered within a larger orange spot on the hind wing inner edge. Very specific. The scientific name is Papilio palizines. Polyxenes. I'm assuming it's pronounced palizines. Next we have blacktail, 1 word, noun from 1805, and we have the synonym black-tailed deer, which is next. Black-tailed is hyphenated. Noun from 1806, and we have a synonym for this one, mule deer. So blacktail is a synonym for black-tailed deer, which is a synonym for mule deer, especially one of a subspecies, especially of British Columbia, Oregon, and Washington. And the scientific name is Odocoileus hemionus columbianus. That is what it says. I am not making this up. Next is black tea, 2 words, noun from 1789. Tea that is dark in color from complete oxidation of this leaf before firing. I've heard black tea is good and healthy for you. Next is blackthorn, 1 word, noun from the 14th century. A European spiny plum with hard wood and small white flowers. And the scientific name is Prunus spinosa. Next is black tie, 2 words with a hyphen, adjective from 1933. Characterized by or requiring the wearing of semi-formal evening clothes consisting of a usually black tie and tuxedo for men and a formal dress for women, as in a black tie dinner. And then it says compared to white tie, which I've probably heard of before, but I don't know what that is. I'm curious to know what that is. Black tie. Yep, that's it for that one. And then our last word for this episode is black tie again, but there's no hyphen. It's just 2 words. Noun from 1935. Semi-formal clothing, as in gentleman in black tie for the banquet. What will be the word of the episode? Well, maybe just because I like the way it sounded, I'm going to pick blackstrap molasses. That is it for this episode. Thank you for listening, and until next time, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to The Dictionary. This is my podcast where I read the dictionary. Feel free to rate and review on the various platforms that you are all listening to. It helps get this more exposure, and this, I think that people need to hear this because there's a lot of words that people probably need to learn about, like me. Okay, this first word is blacktop, 1 word, noun from 1931. A bituminous material used especially for surfacing roads. Also, a surface paved with blacktop. And blacktop is also a transitive verb. Next we have blackwall hitch. The B in blackwall is capitalized. This is a noun from circa 1862. A hitch knot for securing a rope to a hook. And then see the knot illustration. I feel like I need to learn more knots. I only know 2, I think. This is from Blackwall, a shipyard in London, England. Next is black walnut, 2 words, noun from 1612. A walnut of eastern North America with hard, strong, heavy, dark brown wood and oily, edible nuts. Also, it's wood or the nut. And then the scientific name is Juglans nigra. Next is black water, one word, noun from 1800. Any of several diseases as black water fever, characterized by dark-colored urine. Oh, that does not sound appealing. Next is black water fever, noun from 1884. A febrile complication of repeated malarial attacks that is characterized especially by extensive kidney damage and urine discolored by heme from blood. Heme comes from blood. That sounds terrible, and I hope I never have black water fever. Next is black widow, two words, noun from 1915. A venomous New World spider, the female of which is black with an hourglass-shaped red mark on the underside of the abdomen. A couple of things. It's on the underside of the abdomen. I thought it was on the top, but maybe, I don't know. Also, it's such an interesting spot. I'm so curious to know why evolutionarily that spot came to be. What was the reason for that? It's because it really does look like an hourglass. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to look into that. Oh no, the book is closing on me. Yeah, it's an interesting visual that I'm curious to know why it is the way it is. The scientific name is Latrodectus mactans or mactans, something like that. Next is blackwood, one word, noun from 1631. Any of several hardwood trees, some examples there, or their dark-colored wood. The examples are acacia, melanixylon, and also Dalbergia latifolia, and those are of the legume family. Next is, all right, that was the last of the words that start with the word black. Now we have the word bladder, noun from before the 12th century. 1a, a membranous sac in animals that serves as the receptacle of a liquid or contains gas, especially the synonym urinary bladder. Number, what are we on? 1b, we have the 2b definition for the word cyst. 2, something, as the rubber bag inside a football, resembling a bladder. Bladder-like is an adjective. Instead of bladder-like, I think it should be bladdery. Just throw a Y at the end. Let's see, this is from Middle English, from Old English, bladre, which is akin to the Old High German blattara, which means bladder, from the Old English blawan, which means to blow, because you can blow into it and make the bladder expand or whatever. So that is that for bladder. Now we have bladder campion. Now, 2 words, noun from 1783. An old world campion with an inflated calyx introduced into temperate North America. I'm not sure what a campion is, but the scientific name is Selene vulgaris or Selene cucubalis. Cucubalis, one of those. I don't know where the emphasis goes. I'm going to have to look up what a campion is, or a calyx, or a, yeah. Next is bladdernut, one word, noun from 1578. Any of a genus of ornamental shrubs or small trees with panicles of small white flowers followed by inflated capsules. Also, one of the capsules. I don't know, I just like to say capsules that way. This is, let's see, the genus name is Staphylia of the family Staphyliaceae. That is the bladdernut family. Now we have bladderworm, 2 words, noun from 1858. A bladder-like larval tapeworm. As a cysticercis. That's a tapeworm. Cysticercus. Cysticercis. All right, next is bladderwort. 1 word, wart is spelled W-O-R-T, noun from circa 1815. Any of a genus of of chiefly aquatic plants with leaves usually having insect-trapping bladders. The genus is Utricularia of the family Lentibularaceae. That is the bladderwort. Wait, so there are two. Oh, that's the bladderwort family. And then previously we had Staphylaceae, and that's the bladdernut family. Who knew that there were all these words that started with bladder? All right, the last word that starts with bladder is bladder wrack. 2 words. Rack is W-R-A-C-K. Noun from 1810. A common rockweed used in preparing kelp and as a manure. And the scientific name is Fucus vesiculosus. I am learning so many new things in the world. All right, now we have the last word for this episode. It is blade, B-L-A-D-E, and it will go slightly to the top of the next page, which is 130. All right, blade. It is a noun from before the 12th century. Oh, and I should say it's the first form. 1A. We have the 1A1 definition for the word leaf, especially the leaf of an herb or a grass. Yeah, like a blade of grass. 1B, the flat, expanded part of a leaf as distinguished from the petiole. I still need to learn what a petiole is. Number 2, something resembling the blade of a leaf, as 2A, the broad, flattened part of an oar or paddle. 2B, an arm of a screw propeller, electric fan, or steam turbine. 2C, the broad, flat, or concave part of a machine, as a bulldozer or snowplow, that comes into contact with the material to be moved. 2D, a broad, flat body part. Specifically, we have the synonym scapula. That is your shoulder blade. And then it says used chiefly in naming cuts of meat. Next is 2E, the flat portion of the tongue immediately behind the tip. Also, this portion together with the tip of the tongue. Next, we have 3A, the cutting part of an page flip of an implement. Next is 3B1, synonym is sword. 3B2, synonym is swordsman. And then 3B3, a dashing, lively man. And then, one more, 3C, the runner of an ice skate. Blade-like is an adjective. Again, I think we should just call it bladey. All right, what is the word of the episode? Let's see. I will pick Black Widow as the word of the episode because those are cool spiders. I think in that movie, James and the Giant Peach, there was a Black Widow spider or some sort of spider. And the animation in that movie was very cool, especially for back at that time. I think that was the mid to late 90s. I remember hearing that there was one scene where the spider was backing up back onto her web, and this was in sort of the early days of using like video relay, a video thing with animation where you could watch what you were shooting instead of waiting until the film came back. And so I heard a story where the animator was animating that scene, and he had tracked her location incorrectly, and so he actually had to go back and redo the whole thing. He had to like line it up back to where he lost track using that video thing and line everything up correctly and then redo it from that point on, which I was like, oh my God, that just sounds terrible. As someone who has done a little bit of stop motion animation myself. Anyway, that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. And tomorrow we will be starting... Oh, today is July 1st. Tomorrow we will be starting at the top of page 130. Thank you very much. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the dictionary. Okay, top of page 130. First word is blade, B-L-A-D-E. It is the second form, intransitive verb from 1989. To skate on inline skates. Blader is a noun. I was definitely a blader for a period of time. I guess I still have rollerblades probably in storage, but I haven't put them on in a long, long time. And I got many, many knee scrape ups from falling. But that's how you learn. You fall and you get up and you try it again. Next, we have bladed, adjective from 1600, having blades, often used in combination, as in 5-bladed propeller. Next is blay, B-L-A-E, adjective from the 13th century. It is chiefly Scottish. Dark blue or bluish gray. They call that blay. Oh, so it's like a combination of blue and gray. Cool. Etymology, Middle English, bla or blow, from Old Norse blar, akin to the Old High German blau, which means blue. And there's more at the word blue. Next we have blayberry. I had no idea this word blay existed. This is a noun from the 14th century. It is chiefly Scottish, and the synonym is bilberry. I was expecting it to say blueberry, but it's not. It's bilberry. Now we have the word blah, B-L-A-H, first form noun from 1918. Number 1, it says it could also be blah blah with a hyphen, and it means silly or pretentious chatter or nonsense. Number 2 is plural, so blahs. It means a feeling of boredom, lethargy, or general dissatisfaction, perhaps influenced in the meaning by the word blasé. So they just shortened blasé to blah. I feel like this sometimes. You probably do too. Now we have the second form of blah. It is an adjective from 1922, lacking interest. Synonyms are dull and boring, as in a blah winter day. Next is blain, B-L-A-I-N, noun from before the 12th century. An inflammatory swelling or sore. That's a blain. All right, next is blamable. Blamable, adjective from the 14th century. Deserving blame. Synonym is reprehensible. There's a They Might Be Giants song. Maybe I'll put in a clip. Indestructible, indefensible, reprehensible. And then it says there's a synonym. There's the word blameworthy. Blamably is an adverb. Now we have the word blame. It is the first form verb from the 13th century. Let's see. Is it just transitive? I am seeing it is just transitive, I think. Okay. Number 1, to find fault with. Synonym is censure, C-E-N-S-U-R-E, as in the right to praise or blame a literary work. To hold responsible, as in they blame me for everything. To place responsibility for, as in blames it on me. Blamer is a noun. To blame means at fault or responsible, as in says he's not to blame for the accident. Now we have some usage information. Use of blame in sense to be, which says to place responsibility for, with the word on, has occasionally been disparaged as wrong. Such disparagement is without basis. Blame on occurs as frequently in carefully edited prose as blame for. Both are standard. Well, thank you, dictionary, for that information. Now we have, let's look at the etymology. Let's see, from Anglo-French blamer, blasmer, from Latin blasphemare, which means to blaspheme, and from Greek blasphemein. Now we have the second form of blame. It is a noun from the 13th century. 1, an expression of disapproval or reproach. Synonym is censure again. 2, a state of being blameworthy. Synonym is culpability. To be is archaic. Synonyms are fault and sin. Number 3, responsibility for something believed to deserve censure, as in they must share the blame. Blameless is an adjective, blamelessly is an adverb, and blamelessness is a noun. Now we have blameful, adjective from the 14th century, and we have the synonym blamable, which when you're just reading it, when you're just looking at the word, it almost looks like it should be pronounced blamable, which is a funny word. But then I think it would have two M's. Blamefully is an adverb. Next, we have blameworthy. Short definition, a lot of synonym information. It is an adjective from the 14th century, being at fault, deserving blame. Blameworthiness is a noun. So here's the synonym stuff. Blameworthy, blamable, guilty, and culpable mean deserving reproach or punishment. Blameworthy and blamable apply to any degree of why can't I say this word? Reprehensibility, as in conduct adjudged blameworthy, also as in an accident for which no one is blamable. Guilty implies responsibility for or consciousness of crime, sin, or, at the least, grave error or misdoing, as in guilty of a breach of etiquette. Culpable is weaker than guilty and is likely to connote malfeasance or errors of ignorance, omission, or negligence, as in culpable neglect. That was fun. Next we have blanc de chine. Blanc, B-L-A-N-C. Next word, D-E. Last word, C-H-I-N-E. This is a noun from 1888. White Chinese porcelain usually used for making figurines. This is a French phrase, oddly enough, which literally means white of China. So like the porcelain from China, kind of. Blanc de chine. And I think we've got one more for this episode. It is the word blanch, B-L-A-N-C-H, verb from the 14th century, starting with transitive, to take the color out of, as A, to scald or parboil in water or steam in order to remove the skin from, whiten, or stop enzymatic action in, as food for freezing. By the way, parboil is not a word I've seen before. It's par plus boil. And then B, to bleach by excluding light. And then C, to make ashen or pale, as in fear blanches the cheek. So like takes when you get afraid, you can the blood in your cheeks can go away. You can become white in the face, like when people say, "Oh, you look white as a ghost," or "You look like you've seen a ghost." Yeah. And then one intransitive definition says to become white or pale. Yep. Blancher is a noun. I am going to pick blay, B-L-A-E, as the word of the episode because that one was cool to learn. And now I sound a little bit more Scottish. I think I have a sneeze coming, so I'm going to end this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello to everybody who is listening to this. I am affectionately calling you word nerds. Thank you for joining me. If you are not a word nerd, maybe you are becoming a word nerd. Today is July 3rd. It's a Friday, I think, because I have the day off from work, and I hope that you all have the day off as well. I don't know what's happening. Are there going to be parades today or tomorrow? For the 4th of July, for Independence Day here in America? No clue. I think ours might be canceled because there's still a virus out there. Okay. The first word is, I hope I pronounced this correctly, blancmange. B-L-A-N-C-M-A-N-G-E. It is a noun from 1717. A usually sweetened and flavored dessert made from gelatinous or starchy ingredients and milk. Well, if somebody could make me a vegan version of this, I would like to try it because I don't know what it is, and I like things that are sweet. This is from Middle English, blanc manger. From Anglo-French, blanc manger literally means white food. Okay, that's a really creative name. Next we have bland, adjective from 1565, 1a, smooth and soothing in manner or quality, as in a bland smile. 1B, exhibiting no personal concern or embarrassment. Synonym is unperturbed, as in a bland confession of guilt. 2A, not irritating, stimulating, or invigorating. Synonym is soothing. I don't usually think of bland as soothing. 2B, synonyms are dull and insipid, as in bland stories with little plot or action. Yep, that sounds like what I think of when I think of bland, which also sounds like me. Synonym is the word suave, which also does not make sense in my brain. Blandly is an adverb, and blandness is a noun. One could argue that this podcast is extremely bland. If you would like to put that in a review, I would be totally fine with that because it's true. But also, give me 5 stars, please, and thank you. Moving on to blandish, verb from the 14th century. Transitive is first. To coax with flattery. Synonym is cajole. And then intransitive, to act or speak in a flattering or coaxing manner. And then a synonym is the word cajole again. Blandisher is a noun. Blandishment is next. It is a noun from circa 1553, something that tends to coax or cajole. Synonym is allurement. It is often used in plural. Next is blank, the first form adjective from the 14th century. Number 1 is archaic, and the synonym is colorless. It's blank. Number 2A, appearing or causing to appear dazed, confounded, or nonplussed, as in stared in blank dismay. 2B, synonym is expressionless, as in a blank stare. I think we've all had that when we're daydreaming or thinking about something. We just have a blank stare on our face. Now we have 3A, devoid of covering or content, especially free from writing or marks, as in blank paper. 3B, having spaces to be filled in. 3C, lacking interest, variety, or change, as in blank hours. Number 4, synonyms are absolute and unqualified, as in a blank refusal. Number 5, synonym is unfinished, especially having a plain or unbroken surface where an opening is usual, as in a blank key, also as in a blank arch. We have a synonym at the end. It is the word empty. Blankly is an adverb, and blankness is a noun. This is from Anglo-French blanc, which means colorless or white. It is of Germanic origin, akin to the Old High German blanche, which means white, probably akin to the Latin flagrare, which means to burn. I'm not sure how that's related. And there's more at the word black. It's funny, though, because black and blank are obviously spelled similarly, but blanche, or, these older words actually have the word white in them, white or colorless. So yeah, that's just an interesting way that happened. All right, now we have the second form of blank. It is a noun from circa 1570. 1 is obsolete, the bullseye of a target. 2A, an empty space, as on a paper. 2B, a paper with spaces for the entry of data, as in an order blank. An order blank, okay. 3A, a piece of material prepared to be made into something as a key by a further operation. I've actually made keys using blank keys. I worked at a big store in the electronics department, but sometimes they needed help in like the sort of home area, and I learned how to make keys. I only did it a few times, but that was kind of a cool experience. Now we have 3B, a cartridge loaded with propellant and a seal, but no projectile. 4A, an empty or featureless place or space, as in, my mind was a blank. 4B, a vacant or uneventful period, as in a long blank in history. 5, a dash substituting for an omitted word. Okay, moving on to the third form of blank. It is a verb from 1764. transitive is first. 1A, synonyms are obscure and obliterate, as in blank out a line. 1B, to stop access to, synonym is seal, as in blank off a tunnel. Number 2, to keep an opponent from scoring, as in were blanked for 8 innings. Such a weird use of this word. Now we have the intransitive definitions. Number 1, synonym is fade, usually used with the word out, as in the music blanked out. Number 2, to become confused or abstracted, often used with the word out, as in his mind blanked out momentarily. Next is blank check, 2 words, noun from 1793. 1, a signed check with the amount unspecified. Everybody would like a blank check, right? Number 2, complete freedom or action or control. Synonym is carte blanche. CarteBlanche. And then our last word for this episode is blanket. I am sitting on a blanket right now, actually. This is the first form. The second form will be in the next episode, along with the third form. Blanket is a noun from the 14th century. 1A, a large, usually oblong piece of woven fabric used as a bed covering. 1B, a similar piece of fabric used as a body covering, as for an animal, as in a horse blanket. Number 2, something that resembles a blanket, as in a blanket of fog, also as in a blanket of gloom. Number 3, a rubber or plastic sheet on the cylinder in an offset press that transfers the image to the surface being printed. Blanket-like is an adjective. This is from Middle English. It means white woolen cloth or bed covering, from Anglo-French blanquette, which is from blanc, which means white, and there's more at the word blank. So those were all the words. I will pick one of them. I will pick bland as the word of the episode because this podcast is bland. I will stand by that. What was I going to say about something? I'm not done yet, but I have, by the time this episode comes out, maybe I will be done. I have slowly started to put these episodes on YouTube. I'm collecting them in batches of 10, so episodes 1 through 10, episodes 11 through 20 are all in one video. There's no video component other than just the logo. So, if you would rather listen to these on YouTube, which some people like podcasts on YouTube, you feel free to go ahead and do that. Or you could just keep on listening where you're listening now. That's all I got to say. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. Today is June 21st, so this is 2 days after Juneteenth. I don't think I mentioned anything about Juneteenth in the episode that aired that day, because when I recorded that episode, it was probably at least a few weeks earlier, and I honestly didn't know a whole lot about it. But right after that, obviously there's been a lot of talk about Juneteenth, and I have been learning more. And then just this morning, I was talking to my wife, and she has been doing more reading about it than I have, but she said that there's a lot of talk about how there are some people who are saying Juneteenth, especially if it becomes a national holiday, that it would be like the next Independence Day. But that isn't really accurate because, and I'm mentioning this partly because I didn't say anything about Juneteenth, but this episode that you're hearing today is airing on July 4th, 2020, which is the, Independence Day, what we here in America call Independence Day. So there's a lot of talk about saying, no, Juneteenth isn't the next Independence Day because at the time of July 4th, 1776, even though we were independent from England, that didn't mean that every person in America was free. So, it wasn't completely accurate. So Juneteenth, I think the year was 1865, would more accurately be considered an Independence Day. And so, that there's obviously going to be a lot of discussion about that over the next months and possibly even years. But at the very least, it should absolutely be a federal holiday. I believe that. And I think just yesterday I saw that some senators were putting out a bill, hopefully, to turn it into a national holiday. So fingers crossed that that happens. But today is Independence Day, July 4th, what we have been celebrating for like 250 years. And I think it's a Saturday. So yesterday, all of you people probably had the day off of work. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. So anyway, let's talk about words. The first word is blanket. This is the second form. It is a verb from 1605. It says transitive verb, and I think there are no intransitive definitions. So number one, to cover with or as if with a blanket, as in new grass blankets the slope. 2a, to cover so as to obscure, interrupt, suppress, or extinguish, as in blanket a fire with foam. 2b, to interrupt the smooth flow of wind to. That's a weird ending to a sentence. To interrupt the smooth flow of wind to, as a downwind ship. And then we have 2c, to apply or cause to apply to uniformly despite wide separation or diversity among the elements included, as in freight rates that blanket a region. 2b, to cause to be included, as in automatically blanketed into the program, also as in towns blanketed into the district. Now we have the third form of blanket. It is an adjective from 1886. 1, effective or applicable in all instances. Number 2, covering all members of a group or class, as in a blanket wage increase. Oh, speaking of that, I think I just heard that Target permanently increased their wage to $15 an hour. So that is good. Now we have the word blanket chest. 2 words, noun from 1849. A piece of furniture with a hinged lid, a deep well, and usually 1 or 2 drawers underneath. Next is blanket flower. 1 word, noun from 1878, and we have the synonym gaillardia, 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 probably something like that. Now, I wonder why they call it a blanket flower. Is it a flower that just sort of spreads out along the ground? Maybe. Now we have blanket stitch. 2 words, noun from 1873. A buttonhole stitch with spaces of variable width, used on materials too thick to hem. Too thick to hem. Too. And blanket stitch is also a transitive verb, and we have a picture of a blanket stitch. This is going to be way too hard to describe. There's the needle with the thread, and then it shows where the thing is, and then there's some stitches. Maybe I can post a picture. Now we have blankie, Blankie, noun from 1921, a child's blanket. I think most of us have probably had a blankie. I know I did. I probably still have it in storage somewhere, but I haven't seen it for a long time. My friend had a blanket. He had his blankie, but instead of calling it a blankie, I do not know why this was its name, but he named it Judgy, which I always thought was kind of funny. Okay, now we have blank slate. Oh, by the way, I should probably mention, we became friends when we were like 3 years old, so of course we always had our blankies or our judgies with us at that age. Next is blank slate, 2 words, noun from 1980, and we have the synonym tabula rasa. Tabula, Tabula, rasa, Rasa. I think those are, it's a Latin phrase for blank slate. I learned about this, I think maybe in high school, sophomore year or something. This has been a concept actually that I think about to this day. I am not going to get into that, obviously, because that's a whole conversation, but it has to do with the idea of nature and nurture. And when you're first born, you are this blank slate, you are this tabula rasa, and because of all of the things that you interact with, the people and the situations that you are in your life, all of those start to form your personality. And throughout your entire life, some big, some small, you become who you are. And it's all started because of this blank slate. All right, next we have blank verse. 2 words, noun from 1588. Unrhymed verse. Specifically, unrhymed iambic pentameter verse. A lot of people think that poetry and the like should rhyme. That's obviously not necessarily true. Personally, just the way my brain works, I do like it when they rhyme. But I'm not a poet. I do not write it. That was not rhyming. Next, we have blanquette. It's the fancy way to say blanket. Blanquette. This is a noun from 1717. A stew of light meat or seafood in a white sauce, as in blanquette of veal or blanquette of lobster. This is French from the Occitan blanchetto, from blanc, which means white, of Germanic origin, akin to the Old High German blanche, that's probably not how they say it, which means white, and there's more at the word blank. Now we have blare, is that? Yeah, that's an L. Blare. It is the first form, verb from the 15th century. First, we have an intransitive definition, to sound loud and strident, as in radios blaring. And now we have a couple transitive definitions. Number 1, to sound or utter raucously, as in sat blaring the car horn. Number 2, to proclaim flamboyantly, as in headlines blared his defeat. This is from Middle English, blaren, akin to the MD. Is that Middle Dutch? Maybe. It's been so many months and I still haven't marked where these abbreviations are. Hold on. Gotta put the microphone down. Yes, it is Middle Dutch. Okay. Now we have, Middle Dutch, blaren, which means to shout. Now we have the second form of blare. It is a noun from 1796. 1, a loud, strident noise. Number 2, dazzling, often garish brilliance. Dazzling, often garish brilliance. And then number 3 is the synonym flamboyance. Now we have the word blarney. It is a noun from 1780. 1, skillful flattery. Synonym is blandishment. Number 2, synonyms are nonsense and humbug. And then blarney is also a verb. So this is from the Blarney Stone, which is a stone in the Blarney Castle, which is near Cork, Ireland. It is held to bestow skill in flattery on those who kiss it. So if you kiss it, you will have the skill of flattery. You can flatter people. Why? Okay, whatever. Next we have blase, B-L-A-S-E. There is an accent on the E. You can also spell it without the accent if you so choose. This is an adjective from 1819. 1, apathetic to pleasure or excitement as a result of excessive indulgence or enjoyment. Synonym is world-weary, world-weary. Number 2, synonyms are sophisticated and worldly wise. There's a hyphen in worldly wise. Number 3, synonym is unconcerned. And then finally, we have a synonym for the whole thing, sophisticated. And now we have the word blaspheme. It is a verb from the 14th century. Intransitive is first, to utter blasphemy. And then transitive definitions. 1, to speak of or address with irreverence. Number 2, synonyms are revile and abuse. Blasphemer is a noun. Let's see. This is from Middle English, blasphemen, from Latin blasphemare, and there's more at the word blame. Now we have blasphemous, adjective from the 15th century. Impiously irreverent. Synonym is profane. Blasphemously is an adverb, and blasphemousness is a noun and a hard word to say because there's so many S sounds. Blasphemousness. All right, our last word is blasphemy. Blaspphemy. Noun from the 13th century. 1a. The act of insulting or showing contempt or lack of reverence for God. 1b. The act of claiming the attributes of deity. And number 2, irreverence towards something considered sacred or inviolable. No etymology on that one. So we have to pick a word of the episode, and when I say we, I mean me, myself, and I. These were all fine. I guess I'll pick blankie as the word of the episode because, for nostalgia reasons, we all loved our blankie when we were young. That is going to be it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. And as always, this has been Spencer dispensing information to you. Thank you and goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this July 5th. I'm so used to saying June because that's the month I'm living in right now. This is a July 5th episode of this podcast called The Dictionary. The first word is blast, B-L-A-S-T. This one is the first form, and there is a lot to read for this. Okay. Noun from before the 12th century. 1a. A violent gust of wind. 1b. The effect or accompaniment, as sleet, of such a gust. Number 2. The sound produced by an impulsion of air through a wind instrument or whistle. Number 3. Something resembling a gust of wind, as 3a. A stream of air or gas forced through a hole. No comment on that one. 3b. A vehement outburst. 3c. The continuous blowing to which a charge of ore or metal is subjected in a blast furnace. Blast furnace will be coming up later this episode. 4a. A sudden pernicious influence or effect, as in the blast of a huge epidemic. We are in that. 4b. A disease of plants marked by the formation of destructive lesions on leaves and inflorescences. What? Inflorescences. Nope, that's not it. inflorescences. Inflorescences. Okay. 5a. An explosion or violent detonation. 5b. The shockwave of an explosion. 5c. A forceful hit, as in baseball, or shot, as in soccer or golf. Especially the synonym home run. Number 6. Synonyms are speed, capacity, operation, as in go full blast. Also as in full blast. Number 7. An enjoyable, exciting experience, occasion, or event, as in I had a blast. I have a blast reading this book. Can't you tell? And then it says especially the synonym party. Blast from the past is a phrase which means a striking reminder of an earlier time, something that excites nostalgia. Now we have the second, etymology. Old English, blaest, B-L-A-E-S-T, and the A-E is that ash symbol, and it has a horizontal line over it. It is akin to the Old High German blast, which means blast, blasan, which means to blow, from Old English blawan, and there's more at the word blow. All right, now we have the second form of blast. It is a verb from the 14th century, starting with intransitive. Number 1, synonym is blare, as in music blasting from the radio. Burp. Number 2, to make a vigorous attack. 3a, to use an explosive. 3b, synonym is shoot. Number 4, to hit a golf ball out of a sand trap with explosive force. There's no T at the end of force. Number 5, to proceed rapidly or aggressively, as in blasting down the ski slope. I did that once when I was first sort of learning how to ski. I forgot to do the V thing to slow you down, and I just went flying down the mountain. Okay, now we have the transitive definitions. 1A, to injure by or as if by the action of wind. 1B, synonym is blight, BLIGHT. 2A, to shatter by or as if by an explosive. 2B, to remove, open, or form by or as if by an explosive. The 2C, synonym is shoot. Number 3, to attack vigorously. Number 4, to cause to blast off, as in will blast themselves from the moon's surface. Number 5, to hit vigorously and effectively, as in blasted a home run. Number 6, to play loudly, as in blasting rock music on the stereo. Sound like such an old person saying that. Blaster is a noun. Now we have the synonym, nope, not a synonym, it's a prefix blast, or blasto. It means bud, or budding, or germ. Bud, budding, germ, as in blastodisc, or blastula. It is from the Greek blastos. Now we have the suffix blast. So the first one was at the beginning, this one is at the end. It means formative unit, especially of living matter. Germ, cell, or cell layer, as in epiblast. EPIBLAST. This is from the New Latin suffix blastus, which is from the Greek word blastos, which means bud or shoot, from blastanine, which means to bud or sprout. Now we have blasted, adjective from 1540. 1. Damaged by or as if by an explosive, lightning, wind, or supernatural force. As in, upon this blasted heath. And that is a quote from Shakespeare. I do not know where it's from. Also is in a blasted apple tree. So was the apple tree hit by an explosive, lightning, wind, or supernatural force? I don't know. Number 2, synonyms are damned and detestable, as in this blasted weather. And then number 3 is slang. It means intoxicated from drugs or alcohol. I got blasted. Blasted from the pasted. I don't know. That was terrible. Now we have the word blastima. It's blast plus EMA. Noun from circa 1823. A mass of undifferentiated cells capable of growth and differentiation. Blastimal or blastematic are adjectives. This is from Greek blastima or blastima, which means offshoot, from blastanine. Now we have blast furnace, 2 words, noun from 1706. A furnace in which combustion is forced by a current of air under pressure, especially one for the reduction of iron ore. Next is the suffix blastic, BLASTIC. It means having such or so many buds, germs, cells, or cell layers. And such or so many was in parentheses, so it actually says having buds, germs, cells, or cell layers, as in diploblastic. Fun word. Next is blasty, blast with an IE. This is a noun from 1786. It is Scottish, an ugly little creature. Blasty, okay. Let's see, this is from the Scottish blast, which means to wither, from the second form of blast, which was at the beginning of this episode. Okay, next is blasting cap, 2 words, noun from 1879. A small explosive device that is combined with a fuse to detonate a larger explosive. Next is blastment. Noun from 1604. It is archaic, and it means a blighting influence. Next is blastocele, blastocele, or you could add another E at the very end, blastocele. It is not pronounced how you would think it would be based on how it is spelled. This is a noun from 1875. The fluid-filled cavity of a blastula. And then it says to see the blastula illustration, which will be in the next episode. Blastocelic, or blastocelic, is an adjective. Now we have blastocyst. It is a noun from 1876. The modified blastula of a placental mammal having an outer layer composed of the trophoblast. Next is blastoderm, noun from 1837. A blastodisc after completion of cleavage and formation of the blastocele. We are talking about a lot of words that have words in their definitions that I do not know or understand. You might feel the same way. Next is blastodermic vesicle. 2 words, noun from 1836, and we have the synonym blastocyst. Next is blastodisc. We have seen this in 1 or 2 definitions. It is a noun from 1878. The embryo-forming portion of an egg with discoidal cleavage, usually appearing as a small disc on the upper surface of the yolk mass. And then it says to see the egg illustration. All right, next we have blast off, 1 word, noun from 1939, a blasting off, as of a rocket. And our last word is blast off, but it is 2 words. It is an intransitive verb from 1950. And, so it's the 2D definition for the word takeoff. That's the synonym, basically. And it is used especially of rocket-propelled missiles and vehicles. What is going to be the word of the episode? A lot of these were just sort of way over my head, but I am going to pick blasty as the word of the episode. That is this Scottish word, which is an ugly little creature. I think we need to give these blasties some love, because they're not ugly, they're just who they are. Ugly is subjective. Okay, so I have not mentioned this. Let's see. I have not talked about the podcast I'm listening to just because, you don't always need to hear my personal life, but I have started listening to a lot more scientific podcasts recently since I last recorded. A couple that are news related, but also a lot of just science stuff. I'm just trying to learn as much as I can about a lot of different stuff. But one of them that I want to mention is called Ologies with Ali Ward. I've only heard maybe 3 or 4 episodes so far. I'm starting at the beginning back in 2017, and she interviews people who are experts in a field. So, for instance, there was volcanology and gemology, and I just listened to the episode called Horology, which is about watches, specifically watches, but there's also ornithology and cosmetology, and it's very, very fascinating to learn a lot about one subject. And Ali Ward does a very good job interviewing these people, and she's funny. I really appreciate the realness and the humor that she brings to it. I like that when people are more real, which is why I do this with no editing, because I just think I think you deserve some reality in some stuff. Anyway, that is it. I highly recommend Ologies with Ali Ward. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of my ridiculous podcast. And there will be a new one tomorrow. Thank you. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this episode of the dictionary. The first word, the first few words are going to be good for all you science people. You're going to love it. The first word is blastomere. Blastomere. This is a noun from 1877. One of the cells that are produced during cleavage of a zygote and that form the morula. 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 Next is blastomycosis, noun from circa 1900. Any of several fungal infections, especially an infectious disease caused by a yeast fungus that affects especially the lungs and skin. Sounds fun. The scientific name for this yeast fungus is Blastomyces dermatidis. Dermatidis, yep. This is from New Latin blastomyces, which is a fungus genus, which I just read, from the prefix blast plus the Greek myces, which means fungus, akin to the Greek myxa, which means mucus, and there's more at the word mucus. I know it's your favorite word, right? Next we have blastopore, noun from 1880, the opening of the archenteron, sure. Blastoporic is an adjective. I don't know what the archenteron is. Next is blastospore, noun from circa 1927, a fungal spore produced by budding. And if you remember in the last episode, we learned that the blast prefix, or blasto, I should say, has to do with buds and budding. Next we have blastula. It is a noun from 1879, an early metazoan embryo, typically having the form of a hollow, fluid-filled, rounded cavity bounded by a single layer of cells, compared to gastrula and morula. I'm not going to spell those. Blastulation is a noun. All right, this is from the Greek blastos, which means bud, more at the suffix blast. Well, why not the prefix blast? Okay, there is a picture of a blastula. Let's see, section of a blastula. Okay, so it is a circular-shaped thing with a lot of blobs that go around in a circle. There are smaller blobs. They're sort of squished together. Almost looks like a clock. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Well, there's 15 of them. And there's an empty space in the middle, and then there's blobs that go around like sort of like a clock. And I maybe they're cells, and they have a black spot in the middle of each of them. So the inner section where there's nothing is called C. It's just the letter C, and that's the blastocele. And then at the very top, right above the very first blob, is the letter A, and that is the animal pole. Yep, it's the words animal and pole. At the very bottom, where the big blobs are, they're more they're bigger, but they're more stretched out. I don't know. That is the letter V. That is the vegetal pole. Not vegetable, vegetal pole. And then on the right side, kind of where the, like, if you're looking at a clock, kind of where the number 2 would be, we have the letters MI. That is pointing to one of these blobs. That is the micromere. And then at about where the number 4 or 5 position would be on the clock, we have the letters MA pointing to one of the blobs, and that is the macromere. So maybe the top is the micromere, that's the smaller blobs, and then the bottom is the macromere, those are the bigger blobs. No clue, don't know anything about blastulas. Now we have the word blat, B-L-A-T. It is a verb from 1846. Intransitive is first. Number 1, to cry like a calf or sheep. Synonym is bleat, B-L-E-A-T. Now we have, that was intransitive. Now we have 2A, to make a raucous noise. 2B, synonym is blab. Now we have one transitive definition, which says to utter loudly or foolishly. Synonym is blurt. Blat is also a noun. It says it's perhaps an alternative of the word bleat. Now we have blatancy. It is a noun from 1610. 1, the quality or state of being blatant. Number 2, something that is blatant. Well, were you curious about what the word blatant means? Well, let me tell you, it is our next word. It is an adjective from 1596. Number 1, noisy, especially in a vulgar or offensive manner. Synonym is clamorous. Number 2, completely obvious, conspicuous, or obtrusive, especially in a crass or offensive manner. Synonym is brazen, as in blatant disregard for the rules. Another synonym is vociferous. Blatantly is an adverb. This is perhaps from the Latin blatire, which means to chatter. Now we have the word blate, B-L-A-T-E. It is an adjective from 1535, chiefly Scottish. Synonyms are timid and sheepish. Next, we have the word blather. It is the first form verb from 1524, and I think it is just intransitive. To talk foolishly at length, often used with the word on. Blather on. I am currently blathering on by myself, but I know a lot of people who like to blather on when they're talking to people. Blatherer is a noun. I am the blatherer. This is from Old Norse blathra, akin to the Middle High German blodern, which means to chatter. Now we have the second form of blather. It is a noun from 1719. 1. Voluble, nonsensical, or inconsequential talk or writing. Number 2. Synonyms are stir and commotion. Now we have blatherskite. Blatherskite, yeah, one word. Noun from circa 1650. 1. A person who blathers a lot. You could say that they're a blatherer, or you could say they are a blatherskite. And then number 2, synonyms are nonsense and blather. This is, I think it's in Scottish, an alternative of blatherskate, which is 2 words, from blather or blether, which means blather, plus skate, which is a contemptible person. And then it got turned into blatherskite. Next is blatter, intransitive verb from circa 1555. You know, I just thought of something. All of these ones that say circa and then the year, they might all end in zeros or fives. I'm not sure. But the last one that I saw that in did end in a 0, and this one ends in a 5. So I think they just sort of round it to the nearest 5 or 10 year that they know of. Anyway, this is a dialect, and it means to talk noisily and fast. This is from, or perhaps from the Latin blatterare, which means to chatter. And now we are on our last word for this episode. It is spelled B-L-A-W. I would want to pronounce that blah, but it might be pronounced blow, but I think it's blah. It is a verb from before the 12th century. It is chiefly Scottish, and the synonym is blow. So blow, blah, same thing. This is from Middle English. It is a northern dialect, blawen, from the Old English blawan, and that doesn't tell me anything else. So the word of the episode will be, let's see, we started there. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of words that start with blah. I'm going to pick blatherskite as the word of the episode because I think it's a funny word. One that I did not know of. That is going to be it for this episode. Thank you very, very, very much for listening. And until next time, this is Spencer dispensing all of this information to you. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this episode called The Dictionary. No, this episode is not called The Dictionary. Each episode has its own unique name. The podcast is called The Dictionary. This is my 4th episode recorded in a row, so my voice is getting a little raw. It's really frustrating, though, because I do like doing this. I like speaking into a microphone for some reason. I like doing voices. I like all that stuff. I think I inherited that somehow from my dad, because my dad would always do voices. That's actually how he made his living when I was a kid. Side note, I'm actually recording this on Father's Day, and we'll be seeing him shortly. But I I don't ever get to use that. I don't practice that skill. So when I do sit down to record these for like an hour, my voice does get raw pretty quickly. So I'm just telling myself that I need to practice more so I don't have that problem. All right, our first word is probably what's the word I'm looking for? I have a whole book of words and I don't know any of them. You know, well, you've already seen what it is. I'll just say it. It's blaxploitation. BLAX. Didn't know it was spelled with an X. PLOITATION. Controversial. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. This is a noun from 1972. The exploitation of blacks by producers of black-oriented films, as in blaxploitation movies. I guess the X does make sense because it's taking the X from exploitation. I just never thought about that. It says it's a blend of blacks, BLAX, that's the prefix. Ooh, does that mean that we're going to see? No, there is no prefix blacks in this book. So that is an alternative of blacks, spelled the normal way, and the word exploitation. I feel like some people probably like this term. They like the movies. I personally haven't seen a lot of these movies. I think that's maybe a term of endearment to some people, but I think other people, it's the opposite of that. It's not a good term or phrase to use. If you have opinions on that, let me know. I'd be curious to know what you think. But yeah, there's a whole lot of films, and especially the 70s, I think, that, like I said, I haven't seen most of them, but they look like they're a lot of fun. I don't know. I'm trying to think of, I've seen Shaft. I don't know if that probably is considered a blaxploitation film. But yeah, I have some homework to do, I guess, if I want to see more of these films. But, you know, they seem like they were all made by black people with black actors. And so that's where I think it gets a little bit weird, you know, if it's controversial or not. I don't know. Anyway, moving on from a topic that I don't know anything about is the word blaze, BLAZE. It is the first form noun from before the 12th century. 1A, an intensely burning fire. 1B, intense direct light often accompanied by heat, as in the blaze of TV lights. 1C, an active burning, especially a sudden bursting forth of flame. Number 2, something that resembles the blaze of a fire, as 2A, a dazzling display, as in a blaze of color. Sorry, my brain broke there for a second. Anyway, moving on. 2B, a sudden outburst, as in a blaze of fury. Also as in, went down in a blaze of glory. And then 2C is plural, so blazes. The synonym is hell, H-E double hockey stick. As in, go to blazes. Also as in, hot as blazes. I don't think I've heard it used in that way before. This is from Middle English, blaze with an S instead of a Z. From Old English, blaze with an ash instead of an A, which means torch. Probably akin to the Old English bale, B-L, which means fire, and there's more at the word bald, B-A-L-D, of all words. Now we have the second form of blaze. It is a verb. Just checking ahead, I think it's just intransitive from the 13th century. 1A, to burn brightly, as in the sun blazed overhead. 1B, to flare up. Synonym is flame. Am I recording? Yes, I am recording. Sometimes I have to go over there and check, so I'm not wasting my time. Flame, as in inflation blazed up. Number 2, to be conspicuously brilliant or resplendent, as in fields blazing with flowers. Number 3, to shoot rapidly and repeatedly, usually used with the word away. Number 4, to proceed extremely rapidly. Synonym is blast, as in blazing down the highway. Now we have the third form of blaze. This is a transitive verb. I don't know why they didn't combine these, because usually you see the intransitive and then the transitive all in one section, but they divided these up for some reason. This one is a transitive verb from 1541, to make public or conspicuous. Maybe they have different etymology. Maybe that's why they split them up. The etymology for this one says Middle English blazen or blazon, from Middle Dutch blazen, which means to blow, and it is akin to the Old High German blast, which means blast. Now we have the fourth form of blaze. It is a noun from 1639. 1a, a usually white stripe down the center of the face of an animal. 1b, a white or gray streak in the hair of the head. Number 2, a trail marker, especially a mark made on a tree by chipping off a piece of the bark. This is perhaps from the Dutch or Lower German, I think that's what those letters mean, bles, B-L-E-S, akin to the Old Norse blessi, which means white stripe on an animal, and probably to the Old English blaze, which means torch. And now we have the fifth form of blaze. This is the last form of blaze. It is a transitive verb from 1750. 1, to mark as a trail with blazes. Number 2, to lead in some direction or activity, as in blaze new trails in education. I think we could use that. I think our education system is not great. People are working on it, but it's not ideal. Now we have blaze orange, 2 words, noun from 1959. A very bright orange used in clothing, especially by hunters for visibility. Next is blazer, noun from the 15th century. 1, one that blazes. Number 2, a sports jacket, often with notched collar and patch pockets. Blazered is an adjective. So if you're wearing a blazer, someone could call you blazered. Next we have blazing, adjective from 1567, of outstanding power, speed, heat, or intensity, as in blazing eyes, also as in a blazing fastball, also as in again blazing gunfire, and blazingly is an adverb. Next is blazing star, 2 words, noun from the 15th century. Number 1 is archaic. Synonym is comet. Number 2, any of various plants having conspicuous flower clusters or star-shaped flowers, as 2a, any of a genus of North American composite herbs with spikes of rosy purple rayless flowers, called also button snake root. That's a funny name. The genus name is Liatris. And then we have 2b, any of several North American rough-leaved herbs. That's the end of that sentence. And then in parentheses it says the genus name is Mentzelia of the family Lososiae. Okay, next we have blazon, B-L-A-Z-O-N, first form, noun from the 14th century. 1a, armorial bearings. Synonym is coat of arms, armorial bearings. 1b, the proper description or representation of heraldic or armorial bearings. And then number 2, ostentatious display. Next is the second form of blazon. It is a verb from 1534, and I think it is just transitive. Number 1, to publish widely. Synonym is proclaim. 2a, to describe heraldic or armorial bearings in technical terms. So it just says to describe in technical terms, and then a common example is heraldic or armorial bearings. 2b, to represent in drawing or engraving, and again an example is armorial bearings. Number 3a, synonym is display. 3b, synonyms are deck and adorn, as in the town was blazoned with flags. Blazoner is a noun, and blazonine is a noun. Next is blazonry. Noun from 1622. 1A, we have the 1B definition for the word blazon, and there might be a sneeze in my future. 1B, we have the one... there it goes. We have the 1A definition for the word blazon. And number 2, a dazzling display. Now we have BLD. It is an abbreviation for 1, blonde, or 2, blood. Don't get those mixed up. Context, people, context. Now we have BLDG, abbreviation for building. And then our last one for this episode, bldr, abbreviation for builder. Let's see. Well, I think I will pick blaxploitation as the word of the episode because clearly I need to watch more blaxploitation films. I need to learn more about how people feel about those films and the term in general. And I think that is all I've got to say about that. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this has been Spencer dispensing information to you. Thank you and goodbye.